All right, so what I want to do is we're going to just kind of start with the basics. We'll do like a quick bouncing ball and then we'll composite that into an animation. So for now, just go ahead and delete your camera and your light. I'm going to hit X to delete those and we're just going to focus on the ball. Now, what I want to do is smooth this out. I make all of my spheres out of cubes, and there's a couple ways of doing this. In the modifier panel, you can click on add modifier and start typing sub for subdivision. You can add a subdivision surface, or you can hit Control 1 or Control 2 on your keyboard. Now, what I like to do is if I'm not working on a powerful computer, I can leave my viewport level to 1, and that way it won't render that crazy. And then my renderer could be 2. So, for example, if I add that camera back, let's see, where is that camera? Here it is. And let's look inside this camera and lock it. If you could see here that I'm very faceted, right? But if I hit F12 here, oh, I don't have a light in my cell. Well, maybe it'll render it without a light. Yeah, it rendered it, but it's just, let me go ahead and hit Shift A, light, and I'll just add like, sun or something. And then I'll hit G here, just so you could see it. So let's hit F12 again. So you could see that this has a lot more facets than this one, and that's because our renderer here, let's unlock this so you can see this, is set to 2. So if I hit 2 here, you can see that's what it's going to render at. So you can leave it at 1 as you're animating, and then we could set the renderer to 2. All right, so I'm just going to hit G and then Z. G as in George and Z as in zebra. Just move this up a lot. And then what I want to do is add a ground plane. So I'm going to hit Shift A, go to Mesh, add a plane, and I'm just going to name this ground. I'm going to hit S to scale this up, and then S, and then Y to scale it this way. So we now have a ground plane for our sphere to operate on. So let's go ahead and animate this. What I want to do is essentially have it fall essentially down and then just bounce a few frames, okay? So the best way to do this is just block out your animation. So I'm gonna hit the X-axis here. And you wanna look at it in the sense of animating one thing at a time. So you do the rotation maybe first, the location later, and all that other stuff. And you wanna be as clean as possible. So right now my location is at 8. I'm going to go ahead and say 10. And you want to use values that make sense. So for example, if this is 10 here and I go down 8 and I go down all the way to 0, you can see that's our 0 point, right, of our increment. So what we'll do is we'll have it fall in 2-degree increments here. So in my scene, I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, just hit key here, and I'm going to key the location of that sphere, and that's what these are. They're all yellow. And I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to say, okay, it falls all the way from 1 all the way to 20. Let's say 40. We're going to do a very slow bouncing ball because we're going to composite this into some footage. On 40, I want this to be at 0. And then on, let's see, and we'll do it in half increments, right? So here's 0. And then here's 40. It falls straight down. Then what I'd like it to do, again, we're working on the location here, is I'll say, you know what, on frame 200, again, we're just working in 2-degree increments, and then we can move our keys around. I'm going to go, I'd like to move it on the y-axis here. Let's say we'll move that 20 units. And so let's say 40 units. Let's see if that's too far. So it falls on 40. So the next spot that I want to set a keyframe is where I would like to freeze its position on the floor is probably frame 80. So I'm going to go to 80, and then I'm going to hit K and then freeze location, and then I'm going to go to 120. Hit K, location, 160, K, location. And now, because our animation goes all the way to 200, I can just have this do a roll off. All right, so we know here we're at 10. So as it falls here, let's see, we want it to fall on 40. On 60, I want it to go up in the air on about 8. And then on frame 100, I want it to bounce at 6. And then on frame 140, I want it to bounce at 4. And then as it falls, it rolls. So let's go ahead and hit spacebar to look at that. We got our bounce, got our bounce, got our bounce, and we got our bounce. Now, because we don't have our rotation here keyed, what I can do on frame 0 is I can just right click and I can insert a keyframe here on all of these. And so what I want to do on the x-axis is say, you know what? By frame 200, because we're moving in the negative direction, I want it to be minus, I don't know, 1000. So now we have a rotation going on. So let's go ahead and watch that, where our ball is rotating. Okay, let's make that minus, I'm going to hold shift and press the right arrow. Let's make this minus 2000. Give it some really good juice here. Actually, it's not rotating at all. Really? Oh, minus 200, that's why. Okay. Minus 2000. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, it might need to be more than that. It starts off really slow, but that's okay because we can always adjust this. Like, for instance, there's this graph editor that we have here, right? And this represents the kind of the way the movement looks on our sphere, right? So for example, I'm going to hold, I'm just scrolling my wheel out and then I'm going to hold control to move back and then I'm clicking my wheel in. This right here represents that initial fall, right? How do I know this? Well, our location on the z-axis, if I select that, you know, and then I could turn off these other ones too so we could just see the z-axis location. This is what that pattern looks like where we're jumping at 8. So if I grab like this little thing here and I click my left mouse button in, you'll notice that I have a little bit of a cleaner line. Like say I select these two and I right click, let's see, handle and type. If I do a kind of a straight vector here, what you'll notice is now when I hit spacebar, it floats straight down almost on a straight line, and then it does a nice curvature and a bounce. So same thing here. If I right click on this and I say, you know, like automatic easing in and out, let's see, I can select both of these, for example, handle type, let's see, free. I can make that fall a little bit sharper, right? So let's see, these become free. So go straight down, and it's moving a little bit too far off this way. So let's go ahead and move this over just a little bit, kind of speed up that fall. So I hit that spacebar, it hits, and you can see now it's rolling there, and it hits hard because it's following the shape of this graph here. Sorry, a little bit of difficulty. So what I normally do is go into all of these, and I just right click, handle type free, and I just create like a nice little bop bop, like a nice little up and down. And I try to keep the line, this dot here, because this represents the 0 line of our world. So watch this. If I go here, if I select this, I can move it up and down. So this is essentially our movement. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go back to my timeline, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. And it looks like it offset it a little bit when I move that key, but we have a nice little hard bounce, boom, boom, and then it rolls. Now it's all falling below that line, you know, this green line, which is I don't want. So actually we can go back to our graph editor here. We can select really all of these lower ones here. And then just kind of, I'm going to hit R, and then I'm going to hit Z, and let's see. Let me hit escape. Let me undo that. Just want to move these up a little bit. I know there's a way to just flatten them all out so that they're above, which is fine. This is okay because what we're doing next is we're going to create the squash and stretch where it looks like our ball has a little bit of squashiness to it. All right, so let's go back to our timeline here. And so we know on 0 that our ball hits the floor at 20. So let's go ahead and click on X here. Okay, we've got this going on. I'm going to hold shift. So once our ball is impacted on 20, what I want to do is I'm going to grab my move tool, and I'm going to turn on auto key. So make sure that's on. I'm going to move this up a little bit. And on frame 19, I'm going to let it hit here. I'm going to bring it all the way down here, and then I'm going to change it from global to local. And what I want to do is I just want to squash that scale a little bit like this. And then on 19, or on 20 rather, I'm just going to move that rotation a little bit more in the negative axis there, like this. I'm going to hit G, move it down. And then on 21, I'm going to scale this up just a little bit, and I'm just going to move it down. So what you get is this kind of, if it starts to fall, and again, we shouldn't have any scale or any squashing going on at this point. These should all just be 1. And then as it comes down this way, 19 really should still be 1. It flattens on 20. So let's scale that up actually. Bring this down. And then 21, it extends a little bit more. Let's move this. This is where kind of the refinement comes in. So let's watch that. See, we get a nice little boop bounce that pops up. 53, our ball is in the air. Make sure that's on 1. We hit the ground, same thing as before. We want to, this is our hit on 80, so 79. Just bringing it down to the floor. 80, I'm going to move it forward just a little bit like this. I'm going to squash it. 81, I'm going to extend it. And then just move that up. And you could really play with that extension. So we get, and it all kind of, again, this should be 1. Boom. There we go. It has like a little flip. Boom. Boom. We're kind of sort of moving in that direction. All right. Now, what I can do also is expand these out. And once I'm happy with it, I can select these. You can see I have my 3 keyframes here, right? This is from my scale. Let's see if I can get in here a little bit. These are my 3 scale keys. So I'm going to right click and I'm just going to copy that. And here's 101, and then it falls on 120. And I'm just going to hit Control V. And what I get is, oh, it doesn't look like it liked that very much. Let me undo that, because I think all we really need is this scale here, the Y scale. Try that one more time. And then on 120, paste that. There we go. Okay, so here's 120. And I need to shift these over just a little bit. There we go. So let's bring this down. You're always going to have to tweak it a little bit. And then same thing is here, right? Like it's a long jump in the air all the way to 140. And so what you can do is after you're done, you're like, man, this is really floaty and it's slow and all this stuff, right? You start to look at it and you're like, you know what? It should be faster in the beginning. So I'm going to select these 3 top keys, which select all of those. I'm just going to left click and shift those over. So I'm going to hit space, boom, that falls hard. This one could really, again, get moved up a little bit more. So let's say we'll move this to 30. We'll test that out. And then let's grab 80. Let's move that all the way into, let's try 50. Let's see how that looks. Again, you're just sliding keys around to see how you like it. And then this should be a little bit more spaced out because the ball's starting to lose momentum. So let's try 85. So this is where you're kind of like the feel of your animation starts to come in. Here's 140. Let's move that to 100. Let's move 160 all the way over here because we still have to copy that keyframe. And then that roll off, which is 200, just kind of move it to 130. And then this right here, our sphere really should be back to normal at this point. And then copy these three keys here, Control C, and then paste those there. I'm going to shift these over a little bit and then just play with that. So here's 100. As it goes to hit the ground here, it's normal, and then boom, it flattens, and then we want to just kind of rotate this in the negative a little bit more, and then it goes out this way. I'm going to hit G and just move that straight up. Let's move this down. And maybe this wouldn't be as insane, like, because it didn't hit that hard, and now it's just kind of rolling. And then notice from here we are at, let's say, we can make this minus 2000, and then we could just give it a nice roll to 130. Make this end on frame 140 here, and then we can make this minus 2500. So it has like, so let's watch our animation. And I'm going to review all of this in class. And it needs a little bit longer of a hold. You see how like in the air here, it's stuck. It should not be in the air there. So make sure to move it down. And that's what's giving it like that weird flip out. And this should be rotated. See how like it doesn't even touch the ground? That's what's making it look weird. But the way we're going to render it is something like this. So let's go into our camera, lock it, and go from the beginning. And honestly, you could pick whatever angle you want. So let's go back to 0 here. So let's say we want it framed like this. Oh, it looks like my camera was animated. Let's see. Let's select our camera. And I'm just going to hit X to delete all these keyframes. If you didn't see, if they're not all yellow when you select your camera, hit A and then hit X. So let me turn off auto key on my camera. Let me go inside my camera here now. I turned off auto key so it doesn't key it. And let's watch this animation. Actually, I think I'd like more of a side view. So that's good. Here, boom, boom, boom. All right, so let's save this as bouncing ball. And then let's select our sphere here. Let's go to materials here, and let's create a new material. We'll call this ball. Make a new material, call this ball. And I don't know, pick whatever color you like. You can go with the pink here. Let's click our rendered here. Now, if it doesn't apply it or doesn't assign it, you have to hit tab and go to edit mode and then assign the material that way, and then it'll make it pink. And then hit tab, go back to object mode here. Now for your sun, I'm going to hit G to move it in the scene here. And I'm just going to use these default rotation tools. So let's say we want it like, we want the shadow to be right below the ball, but I also want some sort of lighting on the bottom. So I'm going to unlock this and just go back in my view. And I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate this. And then I'm just going to rotate this going straight up like this. And I want to, in my lighting parameters, which are here, I want no shadows. And I want to just give it a, let's say the ground is green. I want to give it some strength so that it gives me a little bit of a green tint on the bottom. And I'm also going to right click on my sphere here, and I'm going to do shade smooth. And let's see, angle. And then for the material for the ground, I'll make a new material. I'll make this green for the ground material. And let's hit F12 and see how that looks. So we get a little bit of like, it looks like the ground is casting light or bouncing light against it. Maybe I'll make this guy even a little bit lighter because it's too strong. Let's see how that looks. I'm hitting F12 here. Yeah, see, now it gives me a little bit more because my sphere is lighter. All right, let's render this out. Again, kind of want this to be a little bit tighter here. Okay, so the way you render it is go to your render settings. We want to, just going to throw mine on the desktop, bouncing ball. And we want to go to frame 140, and we don't want a PNG, we want a movie. And let's see. What I would suggest, if your computer, like save it right now, and then maybe your renderer, you make it like 3 or 4. And, or maybe even 3, because we have it as 1 in our viewport. And then just do render, and then render animation, and then you'll have a nice smoother ball going on like this. All right, and let me go ahead and open that film up. All right, so here's my rendered animation, just playing it in the Windows Media Player thing. And that's it. And then what we'll do next class is we'll composite this into a actual scene like that we get from Adobe, or we can actually film yourselves in class next week on a computer, and then we'll just have that on the scene. And that's like how a lot of times we composite shots. Actually, most of the time you never really film right on a phone. You're always filming something that's composited. So, all right, that's it.